Welcome to today's reading from the Krishna book. We are on chapter 49, Ill-Motivated Dhritarashtra. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Happy Balram Purnima and Raksha Bandhan to everyone. Since Akrur was deputed by Lord Krishna to visit Hastinapur, it is understood that he was very intelligent in studying a diplomatic situation. Dhritarashtra was unlawful in occupying the throne after the death of King Pandu. Despite the presence of Pandu's sons, Akrur could understand very well that ill-motivated Dhritarashtra was very much inclined in favor of his own sons. In fact, Dhritarashtra had already usurped the kingdom and was now intriguing to depose of the 5 Pandav brothers. Akrur knew that all the sons of Dhritarashtra headed by Duryodhan were very crooked politicians. Dhritarashtra did not act in accordance with the good instructions given by Bhishma and Vidur. Instead, he was being conducted by ill instructions of such persons as Karan and Shakuni. Akrur decided to stay in Hastinapur for a few months to study the whole political situation. Gradually, Akrur learned from Kunti and Vidur that the sons of Dhritarashtra were intolerant and envious of the 5 Pandav brothers because of their extraordinary learning in military science and their greatly developed bodily strength. The Pandavas acted as truly chivalrous heroes, exhibited all the good qualities of Kshatriyas, and were very responsible princes, always thinking of the welfare of the citizens. Akrur also learned that the envious son of Dhritarashtra had tried to kill the Pandavas by poisoning them. Akrur happened to be one of the cousins of Kunti, therefore after meeting him she began to inquire about her paternal relatives, thinking of her birthplace and beginning to cry. She asked Akrur whether her father, mother, brothers, sisters and other friends at home still remembered her. She especially inquired about Krishna and Balram, her glorious nephews. She asked, "Does Krishna, the Supreme Personality's devotees, remember my sons?" Inside herself, Kunti felt like a she-deer in the midst of tigers, and actually her position was like that. After the death of her husband, King Pandu, she was supposed to take care of the 5 Pandav children, but the sons of Dhritarashtra were always planning to kill them. She was certainly living like a poor, innocent animal in the midst of several tigers. Being a devotee of Lord Krishna, she always thought of him and expected that one day Krishna would come and save them from their dangerous position. She inquired from Akrur whether Krishna proposed to come to advise the fatherless Pandavas how to get free of the intrigues of Dhritarashtra and his sons. Talking with Akrur about all these affairs, she felt herself helpless and exclaimed, my dear Krishna, you are the supreme mystic, the super soul of the universe. You are the real well-wisher of the whole universe. My dear Govinda, at this time you are far away from me, yet I pray to surrender unto your lotus feet. I am now grief-stricken with my 5 fatherless sons. I can fully understand that but for your lotus feet there is no shelter or protection. Your lotus feet can deliver all aggrieved souls because you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can be saved from the clutches of repeated birth and death by your mercy only. My dear Krishna, you are the Supreme Pure One, the Super Soul and the Master of all yogis. What can I say? I can simply offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Accept me as your fully surrendered devotee. Although Krishna was not present before her, Kunti offered her praise to him as if she were in his presence face to face. This is possible for anyone following in the footsteps of Kunti. Krishna does not have to be physically present everywhere. He is actually present everywhere by spiritual potency, and one simply has to surrender unto him sincerely. When Kunti was offering her prayers very feelingly to Krishna, she could not check herself and began to cry loudly before Akrur. Vidur was also present, and both Akrur and Vidur became very sympathetic to the mother of Pandavas and began to solace her by glorifying her 5 sons, namely Yudhishthir, Arjun, Bhim, Nakul, and Sahadev. They pacified her, saying that her sons were extraordinarily powerful. She should not be perturbed about them, since they were born of great demigods like Yamaraj, Indra, and Vayu. Akrur decided to return home and report on the strange circumstances in which he found Kunti and her 5 sons. He first wanted to give good advice to Dhritarashtra, who was so favorably inclined toward his own sons and unfavorably inclined toward the Pandavas. When King Dhritarashtra was sitting among friends and relatives, Akrur began to address him, calling him Vaichitravirya. Vaichitravirya means the son of Vichitravirya. Vichitravirya was the name of Dhritarashtra's father, but Dhritarashtra was actually the begotten son, not of Vichitravirya but of Vyasadeva. Formerly, it was a system that if a man were unable to beget a child, his brother could beget a child in the womb of his wife. Devarena Suto Pati. That system is now forbidden in this age of Kali. Akrur called Dhritarashtra Vaichitravirya sarcastically because he was not actually begotten by his father. He was the son of Vyasadeva. When a child was begotten in the wife by the husband's brother, the child was claimed by the husband, but of course the child was not begotten by the husband. This sarcastic remark pointed out that Dhritarashtra was falsely claiming the throne on hereditary grounds. Actually, Pandu had been the rightful king. And in the presence of Pandu's son, the Pandavas, Dhritarashtra should not have occupied the throne. Akrur said, "My dear son of Vichitravirya, you have unlawfully usurped the throne of the Pandavas. Anyway, somehow or other you are now on the throne. Therefore, I beg you to advise you to please rule the kingdom on moral and ethical principles. If you do so and try to please your subjects in that way, your name and fame will be perpetual." Akrur hinted that although Dhritarashtra was ill-treating his nephews, the Pandavas, they happened to be his subjects. Even if you treat them not as the owners of the throne, but as your subject, you should impartially think of their welfare as though they were your own sons. But if you do not follow this principle and act in just the opposite way, you will be unpopular among your subjects, and in the next life you will have to live in a hellish condition. I therefore hope you will treat your sons and the sons of Pandu equally. Akrur hinted that if Dhritarashtra did not treat the Pandavas and his sons equals, surely there would be a fight between the two camps of cousins. Since the cause of the Pandavas was just, they would come out victorious and the sons of Dhritarashtra would be killed. This was the prophecy told by Akrur to Dhritarashtra. Akrur further advised Dhritarashtra, in this material world, no one can remain an eternal companion to another. Only by chance do we assemble together in a family, society, community, or nation. But the end, because every one of us has to give up the body, we must be separated. One should not therefore be unnecessarily affectionate toward family members. Dhritarashtra's affection was also unlawful and did not show such intelligence. In plain words, Akrur hinted to Dhritarashtra that his staunch family affection was due to his gross ignorance of fact or his blindness to moral principles. Although we appear combined together in a family, society, or nation, each of us has an individual destiny. Everyone takes birth according to individual past work. Therefore, everyone must individually enjoy or suffer the result of his own karma. There is no possibility of improving one's destiny by cooperative living. Sometimes it happens that one's father accumulates wealth by illegal ways and the son takes away the money. Although it is hard-earned by the father, just as small fish in the ocean eats the material body of a large old fish, one ultimately cannot accumulate wealth illegally for the gratification of his family, society, community, or nation. An illustration of this principle is that many great empires which developed in the past are no longer existing because their wealth was squandered away by later descendants. One who does not know the subtle law of fruitive activities and who thus gives up the moral and ethical principles carries with him only the reactions of his sinful activities. His ill-gotten wealth and the possessions are taken away by someone else, and he goes to the darkest region of hellish life. One should not therefore accumulate more wealth than allotted to him by destiny, otherwise he will be factually blind to his own interest. Instead of fulfilling his own self-interest, he will act in just the opposite way for his own downfall. Akrur continued, "My dear Dhritarashtra, I beg to advise you not to be blind to the facts of material existence. Material conditioned life, either in distress or in happiness, is to be accepted as a dream. One should try to bring his mind and senses under control and live peacefully for spiritual advancement in Krishna consciousness. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that, except for persons in Krishna consciousness, everyone is always disturbed in mind and full of anxiety. Even those trying for liberation or merging into the Brahman effulgence, or the yogis who try to achieve perfection in mystic power cannot have peace of mind. Pure devotees of Krishna have no demands to make of Krishna, they are simply satisfied with service to him. Actual peace and mental tranquility can be attained only in perfect Krishna consciousness." After hearing these moral instructions from Akrur, Dhritarashtra replied, "My dear Akrur, you are very charitable in giving me good instructions. Unfortunately, I cannot accept them. A person destined to die does not utilize the effects of nectar, although it may be administered to him. I can understand that your instructions are valuable. Unfortunately, they do not stay in my flickering mind, just as the glittering lightning in the sky does not stay fixed in a cloud. I can understand only that no one can stop the onward progress of the Supreme Will. I shall understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna has appeared in the family of Yadus to decrease the burdensome load on this earth." Dhritarashtra hinted to Akrur that he had complete faith in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At the same time, he was very partial to his family members. In the very near future, Krishna would vanquish all the members of his family, and in a helpless condition, Dhritarashtra would take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. To show his special favor to a devotee, Krishna usually takes away all the objects of his material affection, thus forcing the devotee to be materially helpless with no alternative but to accept the lotus feet of Krishna. This actually happened to Dhritarashtra after the end of Battle of Kurukshetra. Dhritarashtra could realize two opposing factors acting before him. He could understand that Krishna was there to remove all the unnecessary burdens of the world. His sons were an unnecessary burden, and so he expected that they would be killed. At the same time, he could not rid himself of his unlawful affection for his sons. Understanding these two contradictory factors, he offered his respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The contradictory ways of material existence are very difficult to understand. They can be taken only as the unconceivable execution of the plan of the Supreme, who by his unconceivable energy creates this material world and enters into it, and sets into motion the three modes of nature. When everything is created, he enters into each and every living entity and into the smallest atom. No one can understand the incalculable plans of the Supreme Lord. After hearing the statement, Akrur could clearly understand that Dhritarashtra was not going to change his policy of discriminating against the Pandavas in favor of his sons. He at once took leave of his friends in Hastinapur and returned to his home in the kingdom of the Yadus. After returning home, he vividly informed Lord Krishna and Balram of the actual situation in Hastinapur and the intentions of Dhritarashtra. Akrur was sent to Hastinapur by Krishna to study these, and by the grace of Lord, he was successful. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 49th chapter of Krishna, ill-motivated Dhritarashtra. So I will finish my reading here today and will continue from the next chapter tomorrow. So we have just read that Dhritarashtra understands the two opposing things in front of him, but his mind is not helping him. His mind is constantly thinking for his sons, for his family, even though he knows it's a Supreme Personality of Godhead who is there to give the justice to this Kuru dynasty, but he still can't understand. Though he was sightless, but he could understand everything, but the contradictions in his minds, they would not get rest. He could just think of the benefit of his sons and his sons being the heir to the throne in the future. He understood how he came into this world, and Akrur, even though he tried to sarcastically remind him, nothing would affect him because his mind was set for the betterment of his sons, and he wanted to see them coming on the throne after him. He didn't want to give Pandus their righteous claim in the Kuru dynasty. And I wish you all again a very happy Balram Purnima, and I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you, Narayan Keshav Prabhu, for watching. Hare Krishna.